The midday sun beaten down relentlessly as Deadshot, Mallory, and Doc Holliday rode cautious into the abandoned confines of the crumbling Confederate fort. Its weather-beaten walls and collapsed roofs whisper in sorrowful tales of glories won and lost long ago. Squinting through the haze and dust, Deadshot spied a familiar figure emerging silent as a rattler from the shadows near the old guardhouse. "Hold now! It's Redfeather!" Deadshot exclaimed, already easing his shotgun from its saddle scabbard. Beside him, Mallory tensed while Doc Holliday coolly surveyed their resurrected nemesis. Redfeather stood motionless, hand resting on the ornate knife at his belt. His face was stone, but his dark eyes smoldered. When he spoke, his voice dripped scorn. "So we meet again, intruders? Have you not yet had your fill of death and selfish pursuit of forbidden gold?" Deadshot held up a placating hand. "No call for more bloodshed here, Redfeather. We got our own pressing business in this place, but it need not disturb your aims none." Mallory shifted impatient in his saddle, thumbing back the hammer on his pistol. "Cuss it all, we finished this palaver days past. Let's be on our way for this savage gets it in mind to try halting us permanent-like." Doc Holliday chuckled mirthless, hand hovering close to the well-worn grip of his own sidearm. "Our learned friend seems determined to deliver another lecture on virtues he has no experience practicing. I say if discourse cannot sway him, bullets make fine punctuation." Redfeather's posture grew more threatening as he spat in disgusted reproach. "Have you no shame, bringing violence even unto these consecrated ruins? I warn you only once more. Turn away while you still can, or grave misfortune will hound your every step henceforth." Deadshot stared down the defiant scout, his withered features creased with indecision. He still hoped for a peaceable resolution, but bitter experience argued Redfeather would never quit his own doomed quest. "We all got depths that drive us down uncertain roads," he said low. "Can't no man here claim the high ground of righteousness?" Mallory blew out an irritated breath, temper wearing thin. "This blackguard spewing nonsense ain't worth another moment's delay from our rightful destiny." He half drew his pistol in warning. "Step aside, peaceful, or we'll finish this discussion permanent-like right now." Doc Holliday bared his teeth, amused by the brazen threat. "Such eloquence, Mallory, but our stalwart friend seems to require further encouragement before conceding passage." His thumb caressed the well-worn grip of his Colt revolver. "Say the word, Deadshot, and I shall gladly provide it." Redfeather straightened, contempt etched on his features as his hand dropped now to the tomahawk at his belt. "Defiler! I shall see your cursed gold turn to ashes before yielding another inch." Deadshot stared down the defiant scout, regret and resolve warring bitter within him. All at once he knew words could not turn Redfeather from his own righteous path. With profound sadness, Deadshot slid his shotgun free. "Then I fear this day must end in sorrow. Would God we had found some other resolution?" His weapon barked fire and smoke, the heavy load knocking Redfeather clean off his feet. The scout landed sprawled on his back, the ghastly wound in his chest welling crimson. Yet still he clung stubborn to life, his accusing gaze locked with Deadshot's own. Then finally, the fire in his eyes dimmed and his body went slack. Redfeather would haunt their passage no more. Mallory hawked and spit, glaring down at their fallen adversary. "Good riddance to bad rubbish, says I. Never was a cur more in need of putting down permanent." Holliday merely grimaced non-committal and turned his attentions back to the abandoned outpost sprawling before them. "Let buzzards feast to their content now. We have gold yet to unearth, gentlemen." Together the trio cautiously picked their way deeper into the ruined bastion. Collapsed barracks and listing watchtowers stood crumbling but still whispered tales of martial glory from soldiers long turned to dust. Past the overgrown parade grounds rose the squat shape of the headquarters building where Deadshot reckoned answers, or at least the gold, must lie hidden. Approaching slow, weapons drawn, the partners entered the derelict structure. Dust and shadows clung everywhere, but still a sense of regimental order pervaded the deserted halls. Pressing farther in, boards creaked ominous underfoot. Deadshot's skin prickled, Known well-concealed dangers surely yet remained to safeguard secrets from unwary intruders. As they navigated a winding passage, Doc Holliday paused, gesturing wordless to an almost invisible tripwire stretched taut across their route. Deadshot nodded thanks and took point, gingerly stepping over the deadly snare soon joined by the others. Fortune surely smiled on reckless fools out here thus far. 3 turns later, the hallway ended abrupt at a wall of close-fit timbers. Deadshot studied the barrier careful, seeking clues to bypass the stout barricade. As he shifted closer, Warren prickled his neck an instant before Mallory grabbed his shoulder, yanking him stumbling backwards mere heartbeats before the floor gave way where he had stood. Damnation! That were a close shave, Mallory panted, peering down at the black maw of sharpened punji spikes awaiting below. Lucky I got owl eyes in the shadows. Holliday leaned casually over the pitfall, rolling a fresh cigarillo. Fortune indeed favors the reckless fool, it seems, but perhaps our next dance step should be more considered in these environs. They backtracked cautious to the last branching of the corridors, choosing the leftmost path, which ended at a stout oak door bound in blackened iron bands. Deadshot grasped the lock plate, but could not shift it even a hair. He drew breath to suggest their options when Doc Holliday stepped close, scrutinizing the tarnished metal careful. "There be letters engraved here, though besmirched by age and elements," the gambler mused, tugging a glove off to trace each faded shape. Squinting hard, he puzzled through the sequence, muttering under his breath. Then he announced, "Why I believe it reads Deo Vindis, God will vindicate us," the Confederacy's very motto. So saying, he firmly pressed 9 points across the inscription in ordered combination. A resonant clank sounded within the portal, and the door creaked open. Holliday sketch a mock bow. "When in doubt, fortune favors the learned mind, gentlemen." The trio pressed on through the decrepit interior, dust motes swirling lazy through angled sunlight. But Deadshot's thoughts roamed restless, haunted by vivid memories of past violence. He saw again the raiders who murdered his homesteader father, his young self, clutching a musket too big for his hands as rage overwhelmed childish innocence. Himself, scant years later, gunning down a wanted outlaw and claiming a blood-soaked reward, the first red notch carved into the walnut grip of his fateful peacemaker revolver. Redfeather's face, accusing with his dying breath for sacrificing principles to greed's seduction. "Deadshot!" Mallory's sharp tone cut through the phantoms chained to his soul. "You wandered lost in the thicket, man. What ails ye?" Doc Holliday paused to regard Deadshot sidelong, impatience furrowing his brow. "Take hold of yourself, man," he admonished gruff. "The treasures of history await just ahead." With effort, Deadshot shook off the past's lingering ghosts. Glory or infamy, their destiny would be decided by the days yet to come. Steeling himself, he nodded and stepped out ahead once more. The final chamber was unlike anything found previous. Confederate regalia and banners hung thick with cobwebs and time, guarding the raised dais and immense iron strongbox beyond. Torchlight seemed to flicker from somewhere beckoning them onward. Deadshot approached the formidable vault almost reverent, senses heightening as the partners flanked him. This was the culmination of their long quest, all sacrifices and sins ahead distilled now into this single moment of anticipation, teetering ripe to break disastrous or raise them to long-imagined glory. Drawing a deep breath, Deadshot leaned into the heavy box door. The metal monstrosity gave a tortured groan, then ponderous swung open, stale air gusting past to muss his hair like the breath of a slumbering dragon disturbed. He glanced back once at Mallory and Doc, who watched fever-eyed, then Deadshot turned to face whatever fortunes lay within. His sharp intake of breath echoed loud in the emptiness revealed. No gold coins or jewel-encrusted chalices greeted them. No long-lost riches or artifacts of historic import filled that barren hollow void. The treasure vault gaped mocking and abandoned as the forgotten principles of the valiant soldiers who constructed this place. For several taut heartbeats, no one stirred nor spoke. The wealth of their imaginings crumbled to bitterest ashes through their numb fingers. Deadshot slumped to his knees, all purpose leached from his limbs. Blindly, he sifted a handful of dust and debris, lets it cascade useless back to the floor. They had lost it all, gambled lives and principles chasing fool's gold. A sharp crack shattered the funereal silence as Doc Holliday's pearl-gripped revolver whipped from its holster to shatter against the far wall. "God damn it all, straight to hellfire!" he erupted, mustache quivering with outrage. Wild-eyed as a provoked lion, Holliday rounded on Mallory, who stared open-mouthed at their enraged companion. "You two-bit charlatan, regurgitating honeyed lies all this way? I should blow your worthless skull to vapor this instant." Mallory's shock shifted swiftly to indignation, his expression stormy. "Here now, none of that! We followed the best information had between us. I'll remind you that tattered journal clue were yours by admission." Deadshot slowly stirred from his torpor, the initial crushing disappointment curdling now to suspicion and outrage. "Information my left boot heel," he rasped, voice dangerous. "I ain't swallowing this result as blind chance. One, you lying snakes led me willful astray. Now own it." Holliday drew himself up haughty. "And just what bronze-plated boot heel you implyin' wears the tarnish here? We have bled alike, chasing this folly. Or perhaps your trail savvy has faded, if other possibilities evade you still." Mallory bristled at the implied slight. "I'll be hornswoggled straight to perdition 'fore I shoulder blame for unknown factors. Bad luck don't constitute causality." He touched a hand to his holstered Colt, temper smoldering. "Maybe Deadshot turned craven and sneaked that gold out first, leaving us the dregs." Deadshot surged upright to grab Mallory by the shirt front. "You take that vile lie back, you yellow-bellied skunk. I oughta—" "Gentlemen." Holliday's resonate tone cut through their clashing. He eyed each man measured in turn, the cold detached gleam returned to his gaze. "This hardened earth swallowed up the fortune we dreamt about, clearly and beyond debate. Recrimination solving nothing now." With visible effort, Deadshot released Mallory and stepped back. Doc straightened his rumpled collar before continuing. "The only sane course left is to abandon this misbegotten quest immediately and seek out fresh possibilities." His stare lingered pointedly on Deadshot. "Clinging to old ghosts and wounds will only deepen our travails." Deadshot held silent, bitterness churning relentless within him, though he knew Holliday's logic was sound. Their alliance now lay in tatters amidst the wreckage of their fortunes. Wordless, he turned his back on the pair and strode from the abandoned vault, each step an effort under the staggering weight of past and future unknown.